Good morning. It is Tuesday, October the 8th, and this is The Drill. Thank you very much. I am Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today because I'm the only one who is realistic. My podcast is about being a true conservative and using true conservatism to beat the left each and every day. Broadcasting is my calling, and I podcast not in a search for popularity, but because I have something to say. My podcast is made possible by Spreaker.com. It can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. My email address is storytimes@hotmail.com. I'm on Twitter at Ronald Hardgrove and on Facebook at The Drill. I started my socio-political odyssey as a conservative Republican, and then I became a card-carrying member of the Libertarian Party, and am now a registered independent and a true conservative. I was intimidated by the left about how to dress, how to act, who to take seriously, what to take seriously, and who to associate with. When I decided to vote Republican, I thought that I could act like a liberal. Let's just say when I decided to vote Republican, I talked conservative, but I acted left. I was intimidated. I was surrounded by left-wing messages from the radio, both AM and FM, messages from television, messages from the movies, and messages from newspapers and magazines, messages that were unopposed by the right. So I used lefty lingo. I dressed like the left, engaged in petty vice, and associated with those who also engaged in vice. People that consorted with prostitutes, gambled, used drugs, stole, and cheated. Live and let live. Be cool. Let it all hang out. Don't be so uptight. Go with the flow. Those were the slogans that I lived by, not by choice, but by default. I failed to recognize that the debate dynamic was between idealism, the perfect society, and realism, the real society. It was no wonder that I couldn't win, so I realized that defeating the liberals and socialists starts with getting my act together, by living deliberately, by carefully choosing what to watch, listen to, and read, by refusing to associate with common criminals and ne'er-do-wells, by being aware of and resisting left-wing counterculture, and by using my intellect to defeat psychological bullying and intimidation. By becoming a true conservative, I will not only win, I will never lose. The purpose of my broadcast is to share with my audience the lessons I learned on how to defeat the left every day. The job of the true conservative is to express what he knows and to do so with certainty. Today, I will continue to reschool Rush Limbaugh. I will examine the relationship between shaming and private property and between rights and subjectivism. I will finish rereading the preface of the book, The Culture of Narcissism, American Culture in an Age of Diminishing Expectations. Thank you. Yesterday I played a clip of Rush Limbaugh getting it wrong. When he asserts that the only thing wrong with the country is that we don't win enough elections, he forgets about rhinos. How many so-called Republicans and so-called conservatives have been elected only to defy and betray the electorate when they assumed office? Too many to count. If it weren't for President Trump, we wouldn't have a wall on the border. We were supposed to have a replacement for Obamacare by now. Where is it? When candidates become office holders and poll their constituents, they find that the ideas that they campaigned on are not as popular as they assumed, and that lack of support is due to the influence of left-wing counterculture, the influence of CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, of our friends, relatives, neighbors, co-workers, and churches. Yes, churches. Christianity is moving left. Yet Mr. Limbaugh fails to concern himself with any of it. Oh, sure, he complains about the drive-by media. I'm not even sure what that's supposed to mean. What he should be doing instead is encouraging his listeners to speak and to do so with certainty. Because our politics do not shape our culture shapes our politics. Period. And when I come back, I'm going to be reading the rest of the preface from the narcissism and the culture of American society. Thank you very much. Welcome back. And I'm going to continue rereading the book on narcissism and our American culture. Here we go. Got to get into Kindle here real quick. And let's see. It's taking its time opening up. I should have had it opened already. Nope, that's the wrong one. Opened the wrong one. Let's try this. There it is. Okay. The Culture of Narcissism, American Life in an Age of Diminishing Expectations. So let's see where we're at here. Let's see. There it is. There it is, there it is, there it is. I should have had all this prepared, and I didn't, and I apologize for that. So, let's start here. The historical discovery reinforces the psychoanalytic insight that loving memories can constitute an indispensable psychological resource in maturity, and those who cannot fall back on the memory of loving relationships in the past suffer terrible torments as a result. The belief that in some ways the past was a happier time by no means rests on a sentimental illusion, nor does it lead to a backward-looking reactionary paralysis of the political will. My own view of the past is just the opposite of David Donald's. Far from regarding it as a useless encumbrance, I see the past as a political and psychological treasury from which we draw the reserves, not necessarily in the form of lessons, that we need to cope with in the future. Our culture's indifference to the past, which easily shades over into active hostility and rejection, furnishes the most telling proof of that culture's bankruptcy. The prevailing attitude, so cheerful and forward-looking on the surface, derives from a narcissistic impoverishment of the psyche, and also from an inability to ground our needs in the experience of satisfaction and contentment. Instead of drawing on our own experience, we allow experts to define our needs for us and then wonder why these needs never seem to be satisfied. Quote, as people become apt pupils in learning how to need, unquote, Ivan Illich writes, quote, the ability to shape wants from experienced satisfaction becomes a rare competence of the very rich or the seriously undersupplied, unquote. For all these reasons, the devaluation of the past has become one of the most important symptoms of the cultural crisis to which this book addresses itself, often drawing on historical experience to explain what is wrong with our present arrangements. A denial of the past, superficially progressive and optimistic, proves on closer analysis to embody the despair of a society that cannot face the future. So, and again, all of that is, what he's not doing in this book is explaining that really what he's talking about is left-wing counterculture. It is the left wing that encourages narcissism by telling the individual there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. If you have problems, it is because of society, the society we live in. Okay? That in order to change the individual, you must change the society first. And so, in an effort to try to create activists and revolutionaries. So, and that is the conclusion to the preface of this book, The Culture of Narcissism. And in the future, I'm going to be reading other passages from this particular book. I think, again, it's an excellent example of the power of culture to shape our politics. So, back in a minute. Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome back. And In conclusion, I've reschooled Rush Limbaugh and finished reading the preface to the book, The Culture of Narcissism, American Culture in an Age of Diminishing Expectations. I suppose Donald Trump's Make America Great Again is, in a way, an attempt to create expectations and to create big expectations. So, perhaps a counter-revolution. Who is the true conservative? He is the person that understands that conservatism is not just about politics, but culture as well. He acts like an adult. He is patriotic and uses common sense. He expresses what he knows and does so with absolute certainty. He makes judgments, refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He is open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He is consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He is a normal American, and he is better than the socialist. He is a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that. If you don't know with every fiber of your being that being a true conservative is best, then you're lost. And that brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. Remember that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win. True conservatives will never join their movement, and we won't shut up. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.